They say, if you are a veteran, I'm willing to bet someone has text, email, or straight up said to you along the lines of, dude, I know a guy who can get you 100% disability. You can probably see where this is going.
Right.
And so remember all those pesky little companies the VFW has been fighting, the ones they call claim sharks? Well, the issue was always much bigger than the fraud. It was the realization that the system simply cannot sustain 100% veterans receiving 100% disability. At the end of the day, if you're being truly honest with yourself, you acknowledge that's never what the system was created for. Last little verbiage here. So when a large percentage of veterans attempt to manipulate a system to obtain 100% disability, whether they're owed it or not, the system breaks. What that, and that post got a lot of attention, what that suggests to me, Jason, is that every single veteran who uses a company has committed fraud. Okay. Now, I do want to speak on the fraud side of the house, but with that post and just fraud and what is being suggested with those words, because a lot of veterans agree. I want to be clear on that. A ton of veterans agree with what was said. I personally do not, and I'll explain that here after you. But I just want to get your 2 cents on just the thought of, the whole situation, because that's where we find ourselves in.
I think what happens is that people get passionate about things like fraud in the VA system, right? And then what happens is in their minds, it gets magnified, and this is not doing any favors for that. This is magnifying a very, very small percentage of VA disability claims. Okay, very small, minute in the big picture. Does it need to be addressed? Sure. At the end of the day, you have doctors that are providing evidence. Okay, you're not going to get anywhere without a doctor not providing you evidence. You need medical evidence from a doctor. So you have doctors whose licenses are going to be on the line for a couple $100, $1,000, $1,500, whatever it is. Not enough to risk your entire livelihood. Although, who knows? Maybe some did. The reality here, Clay, is that also makes it sound as though all of these veterans are magically getting 100% rating, and it's just we're flooded with 100%ers. That's simply not true. 100% is harder than that to get. Now, you'll get people who have 100% that make it sound like it was easy. Well, it was easy for you because you have all the documentation you need, and you have all of your T's crossed and I's dotted. So whoever this person is who put out that post, maybe they're rated at 100%. And maybe they didn't have that big of a problem getting there. So they assume that everybody who goes through a claims company is going to get 100% because it was easy for them to do it on their own. So if somebody can't do it by themselves, then with the help of this place, they're probably going to get it. So again, it's a very stupid thing to say because it's a very nuanced world. The amount of fraud is small. I don't know what the number is, but I can probably guarantee you that it's less than 10% is like legit fraud, right? 10% of the budget going out. That's usually a good variant, a 10% kind of wiggle room. Still a lot of money, right? Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of money, $10 billion or whatever it is. Because if it's $150 billion in payments going out, that's a lot of money and it needs to be addressed. But that's not what the problem is. And you can't say, take it away from everybody and take away opportunities and resources from everybody because 10% screwed it up, right? We get it. We all understand that it only takes one and the whole platoon's doing push-ups, right? So it's that mentality.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't have that mentality. I'm sorry. It's sadly the U.S. government also understands that. That's why there's fraud in Social Security. That's why there's fraud in workers' comp. That's why there's fraud in all these other places. I don't know the number off the top of my head, Clay, but my guess would be less than 20% of veterans who are service connected are at 100%, and everybody else is less. So you're talking about 80% or less than 100%. And, oh, by the way, again, these half-baked ideas, sure, the person that's 50% today, well, 15 years from now, when the secondaries set in and conditions get worse, that stuff's all going to increase. So what? They shouldn't be at 100% because they're only supposed to be at 50. Sorry, that's not how it's written. It's written that if it gets worse or it causes other problems, here you go. And that is not taking advantage of the system. That's understanding. That's understanding the benefits that are written. It's clear. It is clear that you can file for secondaries. It's not some sort of magical, let me get one over on the man, and slide something over here this way. No, it's exactly what it is. The same thing with increases. And yes, Clay, back to the thing that you said about the fact that, you could take essentially as many bites of the VA apple as you want. Well, guess what? Sure. And unlimited conditions. But I'll tell you what, there's not a single veteran out there that has every single condition that's listed in the schedule of ratings. Just never going to happen.
Just like 5,000.
yeah. So big deal that they could file unlimited, whatever. And the other piece to that is, like you had alluded to, many veterans don't understand how to even file a claim, what evidence is actually needed, how much the VA will or will not help you through that process as far as gathering evidence is concerned. And so they get denied. And of course, they should be able to reapply with new evidence or additional evidence, right? Of course, they should be able to. And I'll tell you what, that if somebody doesn't have the evidence, which we talked about before, if they do not have the evidence in order to get service connected, they can apply 1,000 times. They're never going to get approved.
Correct.
Granted, now that's a different issue, and this is a real issue. Well, now you're spinning the VA's wheels, and they're working and they're spending time, and you multiply that type of behavior over, 500,000 people submitting stupid claims. That's a real issue, right? And that is something that, maybe veterans have to be required to submit through an accredited rep. You can't file by yourself anymore, right? To make sure that you're getting all of your T's crossed and I's dotted and so forth, to make it easier. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that, Clay.
Yeah, on the one, solid. Okay, all solid points. Let's hope that the VA doesn't mandate veterans to file a claim through an accredited rep only and submit evidence, right? That's definitely not where we want to go. But I really want to hit on the fraud aspect, especially because this person has a following. And you know how it is, Jason. I have veterans that watch the CivDiv. You have veterans that watch, Veterans Info Tap. And we could say whatever we want, and then our diehards would hop on board. So this person has their diehards, okay? So make no mistake, there are many people that agree with her, agree with them. It's a lady.
Her?
Sorry, you got it.
Oh.
Okay. And so, and you may be watching this and you may agree with her, which is totally fine. But I want to bring something to your attention on the fraud piece is, if you know me, I'm not a fan of insane claim company charges. 5 times, 6 times the increase, not a fan. Okay. Personally. Now, if you are tracking on the fraudulent claim shark discussion, okay, one thing is true. And when I say true, I mean it's objective. It's fact. It is objectively true, no opinions. Is there hasn't been a single claim shark company that has went down for what? Fraud. Okay. Meaning, one, I'm a big fan of the judicial process, right? Due process. I don't care who you are, you get due process. Once you cross that line, there's no coming back. And so you are innocent till proven guilty. And so the assertion that companies are committing fraud, we can talk about it, that's fine. But then to give selected truths that that's the only thing they do, or they like specialize in that, in my opinion, that's way too out of context.
I agree.
And so what we see, again, objectively, is we have whistleblower reports. That is a motion to file that suggest a company named Veterans Guardian. And this is all public information, so it's fine. Okay. Veterans Guardian did commit fraud back in the day when it comes to depression secondary to chronic pain. That's a fact. Here's another fact for you. There is extremely strong evidence that links depression secondary to what? Chronic pain. Okay. And so you look at chronic pain and the symptoms that would come from seriously being in chronic pain all day, you're going to basically fall in that 50% category. And all this is laid out in that whistleblower motion to file, which I'm not going to pull up here because that's its own 3-hour video to actually read it and understand it. Right. And so I would recommend every veteran, even myself and Jason, right, that have our own opinions on claim companies, to not deliver a verdict via public opinion, because that doesn't matter, but leave that to the courts. And you know what? The day that many companies go down for fraud and it's from a verdict, I'll hop on board. But you are out of your absolute mind if you think every veteran who goes through a company is committing fraud. Because I tell you what, then this is like the transition to why I think these companies are extremely successful. It comes down to two things. One, VSOs, and I'm gonna hit on the VFW specifically because they are the largest, right? The VFWs, I've never seen a VFW ad for helping me file my claim. I've never seen anything, any information anywhere ever in my whole life, in the Marine Corps as a veteran and right now, about what the VFW can do for me. This is all VSOs, right? However, you look at the marketing of these companies, and I can tell you in 2019, I saw tons of ads. It's
Right.
access to information. And so my decision to go to a VSO was one out of ignorance and convenience. Okay. Meaning it just so happened that I was in the building and I went to go see a VSO. Had I looked at that ad first, I would have went that route. So then is that correlation that person's building, is that saying that I would have committed fraud had I went through the company submitting the same claims that I have now? And you have one of my good friends has 2 Purple Hearts who used a company to submit his claims. Are you saying
Right.
that person committed
Right.
fraud? Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's not the company themselves that's committing
Right.
fraud. Now, if they submitted fraudulent claims for certain veterans, let me know. Okay. We will cover it on all of our channels for sure. But until that day comes, we need to not pass guilt via public opinion, because that's morally not okay with me personally. Right. And leave that to the courts. That's really when I read that, I was so mad
Right.
to see like veterans attacking other veterans in that instance. And it's like, hey, I think your hate for claim sharks
Right.
is bleeding over your
Right.
boundary.